Today's our fourth class. We're going to be digging into the second half and perhaps the most central area of the service for Shabbat morning. I also want to spend a little bit of time talking about what we're going to be doing on the Shabbaton, Friday night and Shabbat morning, because I want to make sure that as many of you get connected, and that means physically so. I understand Christina told me today that we're going to be already having people that are going to open the ark. That I was thinking of having a number of aliyot, for instance, members of the board, people that come from out of town, different places. So if you have any ideas as to how can we pay homage to those of you that are coming to make it a really celebratory, by all means, I want to hear your opinions and your guidance. So let's see. Let's see. Somebody is message. Oh, that's Christina. Okay, got it. So one of the things that I want to do is, Christina, can you help me with the Sidur? So can people see it together?
Yep, got it here.
If you can go to page 168, 168 of the Sidur Lev Shalem. By the way, I want to say, well, Christina is laboring on this, a couple things. First of all, the word Sidur, let's remind ourselves, that began with the same root as Seder that you just experienced. I'm glad that Debbie already has it in her hands. So I want to make sure that everybody, absolutely everybody, has a Sidur, hopefully your own. Agudas Israel is so generously puts together. That is a great place. It's perfect, Christina. So while the community offers a Sidur when you come there, there is nothing like having your own. The same as having your own talit. It's really, really important. It's something that you take it. It's a really, if you want to call it, a really good investment. It lasts many, many years, and it never becomes old. It is always new, and you're going to see that also, as Christina is always showing us, the page is organized in this particular Siddur very lovingly. And like if it would be a Talmudic page. What do I mean by that? I mean that the page is organized first with the central text, that is the Hebrew text and the translation. And they have in red a number of the text that presumably we want to sing together. Why do I say that? Because sometimes you may feel that you want to participate, but perhaps your Hebrew is not pristine, and so you need a little help. So they give you some in here in red, what I'm marking. They give you some of those important phrases that we can sing together. And so I'll sing a little bit. I'm going to begin. It says in Hebrew, Otsaat HaTorah, or Seder Kriyat HaTorah. Let's translate. Seder means, we already said, the order, right? Sidur, order. Seder Kriyat HaTorah LeShabbat. That means the order of the reading of the Torah for Shabbat, or the Shabbat. They call it the Torah service, but really what it means is that we're going to be reading from the Torah, right? And you may ask yourself, so why is that the Torah is so central? Because the Torah is the blueprint to our lives and our direct connection to God. in fact, so much so that the rabbi said at times of difficult times when false prophets, then later found to be false prophets, were asking people to come out and do things that they wanted, the rabbis will say, if the Torah does not indicate that, then don't follow it. They don't follow it, even if people advocate to be the Messiah, right? So following, and we're going to go into that immediately, they have, like I said, the text in Hebrew and in English and transliteration for the important parts in red. And what else they have? They have also explanations. What is the Torah service? What happens during the service? What happens when it says, Ein kamocha, no one compares to you, God? And we're talking to God in the second person singular, yeah? And then what happens on the left side where it says Torah, to whom is the Torah addressed? There are a number of very juicy and interesting explanations that I invite you to read. I invite you to read them. If you can read them at home, so much better. But sometimes, I want to say this, we are used to the fact that we all are at the same place at the same time during the tefillah, the prayers. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. If there is a word in particular that triggers your interest, if there is a particular phrase that triggers your interest, it's okay to immerse yourself into it. For instance, notice that the beginning of this page begins with the words Ein kamocha b'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha. None compares to you, Adonai, and nothing is like your creation, right? So all of a sudden, at the bottom of the page, you're going to notice that it says none compares to you. What that means, we're not going to read it now, but that's the introduction. And it's great what Christina is doing about zooming in so everyone can actually see well. But I invite you to look at your own Siddur on page 168, because you're going to have a lot of things in there that will be great for you to know. And so we begin with a bang. We're going to be reading from the Torah, and what do? We let God know in no uncertain terms that God is unique for us and that God's creation is also unique. And of course, we're talking about Shabbat, among other things, and we are saying that clearly Shabbat is unparalleled in history. I always say that that especially living in America, in the US, when we live 24/7 nonstop, that Shabbat is a revolution. When you have to stop working for 25 hours, and the hours are chosen by nature and not chosen by you. Shabbat doesn't begin when you want it. Shabbat begins when the sun sets. And Shabbat doesn't end when you want it. Shabbat leaves when 3 stars are upon the sky. All right? So we begin with these words: your sovereignty, God, is eternal, your dominion endures in every generation. And then we say, God, Adonai Melech, God reigns. Adonai Malach, God did that in the past. Adonai Imloch Leolam Va'et, and God will reign, will be sovereign forever and ever. And then it says, Adonai Oz Le'amo Iten, God would fortify God's nation, and God would bless us. May it be soon with peace. So this is what happens at the very beginning. And the melody that we use, Ein kamocha ba'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha. actually has those qualities in it, right? It's grandiloquent, it's grandiose. It invites us to think of a God, perhaps a little more of the 19th century God, that was this God that was larger than anything, extraordinary, impossible to measure, right? מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. So that's the introduction to this piece. And then Adonai Melech. Everybody. Adonai Malach. Adonai Imloch. Leolam Baed. Adonai Oz Le'amo Yiten. Adonai Yevarech. Et Amo V'Shalom. And the more we sing, the merrier, right? Notice the melody is a melody that comes from a big synagogue, from the big place. We're large. Imagine the Vienna synagogue. We imagine one of those great places where the sound resounds largely, right? And then after that, we compare that with a different passage, an intimate passage that says, you are the parent of compassion. I like to say that is my parent because my name is Rachamim. So Rachamim means mercy. And actually, for ladies would like to know that Rachamim comes from the root Rechem. Rechem that comes from you create life, right? More specifically, a vagina, a specific word where we create life, right? Av arachamim, eitiva birtzoncha et Zion, compassionate creator, translated here. May it be your will that Zion, that Jerusalem flourishes. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim, rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Why? Ki becha levad batachnu, because we trusted you alone. Melech el ram v'nisa Adon olamim, you sovereign that stands transcendent, master of all time. Remember the word Adon. Remember Adon olamim, olam. We remember that piyut, Adon olam, at the end of the service, right? And Adon Olamim, because we have the question, if we say Olam, are we implying that God is the creator of one world, and what happens with the other worlds, whether in terms of our spirituality or whether we are talking about the worlds of the universe. So that is also contained in the music that we sing. Avarachamim heitiva birtzoncha et Zion tivne chomot Yerushalayim tivne chomot Yerushalayim ki becha levad vatachnu melech el ram v'nisa Adon olamim. So at this moment, we already gather the energy of this introduction to merit, to open the Aron HaKodesh, the ark, the sacred ark. And we use these words, Vayehi bin so Aaron bayom al Moshe. These words that are saying, and notice that they're also in the transliteration in red, right? The time that as the ark was carried forward from the Torah, Moses would say, because that was the portable Torah, in the same way that they have that portable Torah during the desert, we are now have one that resides in that beautiful ark that our synagogue has. And then it says, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, because we hope that from Zion the Torah will come out. The Torah of light, the Torah of understanding, of wisdom. Udvar Adonai Yerushalayim, and the word of Adonai from Yerushalayim, from Jerusalem. Baruch Shenatan Torah le'amo Israel b'kedushato. Blessed, praised, the one who gave the Torah that we accepted. And that's the part that I always want to teach. It's not that God gave us the Torah. We received the Torah because we were so eager to follow its teachings. So we sing, Ki mitzion, they are in the bottom, right? Tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Udvar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Israel b'kedushato. So I want to say to you that if you noticed, when we began with the words Ein Kamocha, we actually looked into the Psalms, Psalm 68 and Psalm 145. And then we moved into this Abba Rachamim from Psalm 51, from the paternal, the loving parent. And then we go into Vayayi binso Aaron from the book of Bamidbar, of the book of Numbers, where we carry, right? What is that happened when the ark was carried forward? And then, because from Zion the Torah will come forth, words from the prophet Isaiah, from prophet Yeshayahu. So what are we accomplishing? We are bringing to us the entire Tanakh. Remember, our first session, we talked about this acrostic. Tanakh, 3 letters, Taf, that means Torah, the 5 books of Moshe, the Nun for Nevi'im, of prophets, and the Chaf, or K, the Ketuvim, the writings that came later, in that all together form the Tanakh, the Bible, that we don't think is old. We think that it's actually very much current. So why are we not, you say, why are we not using our own words? Somehow, maybe if you have your own words, you should use them. But many times we run out of words, and we ask for the different parts of the Bible to help us out, to give us the text that sometimes maybe we would lack. We will move, as we are opening the ark, to a portion in Aramaic on page 170. And at the bottom of it, I want to show you, see, that there is a sign in red, both in the transliteration as well as in the Hebrew, right? There you go, lovely. And we say the words, בבענה רחץ, בלשמי קדישה, קדישה יקירה. אנא אמר תושבחן, יהא ראווה קדמך, דתפתח ליבי באורייתא, ותשלים משלין דליבי, בליבה דכל עמך ישראל, לטב ולחיין ולשלם. Amen. And we sing this, and in case that you say, oh, my Hebrew must not be very good, I don't understand a word of what it says in there, you'll be forgiven, because it's actually not Hebrew, it's Aramaic. And why Aramaic is interspersed in here? For a very, very important reason. Because the Babylonian Jews actually spoke Aramaic fluently, like the Jews in Iraq might have. Some of them perhaps even today, but very, very few. And other prayers come into mind. The Kaddish, also written in Aramaic, recognizing that many, many times we are we draw from those ancestors of ours, very, very old ancestors of ours, that spoke not Hebrew but Aramaic. Even the ketuvah, the marriage contract, is actually written in Aramaic and not in Hebrew. So there you go, and we turn the page. Thank you, Christina. And we finally come when the Torah, and you noticed that it says we remove the Torah from the ark, and the leader faces the congregation, and the following two lines are recited by the leader, and we then repeat them. That's why they are two times. Why? Because if we say the word Shema Israel, or so, only the one that is holding the Torah is saying them, gives the impression that what? That this is the belief of this person and not ours. And when we say Echad Eloheinu, God is one, and God, our God, is magnificent and holy, if the leader says it on its own, then perhaps it's only her intention but not ours. Then we face the ark. Notice everything is written. We face the ark and we bow. And when we bow, we say, actually, the leader says them, Gadlu Ladonai iti, as an invitation. Join me, the leader says, in glorifying Adonai. Let us together acclaim God's name. And after that, we begin a procession, right? Called a circuit, if you want. And the Torah is carried around the congregation with the words from King David. Lecha Adonai hagedula ve'agvura ve'atiferet ve'anetzach ve'od. All this are different attributes to God, right? The greatness, the strength, etc., etc. And we sing, Lecha Adonai hagedula ve'hagebura ve'atiferet ve'anetzach ve'ahod. If you notice, it's also transliterated here, so you could also, all of us can sing together. And if you think that it sounds like a march, you're right, because it's a procession, right? We take the Torah around to indicate that the Torah, lo b'shamayim hi, the Torah is not in heaven, but is here on earth. It isn't here on earth only at the Bima. No, it's also part of everyone. And that's why the tradition is to kiss the Torah. Some people kiss the Torah with their hands. Some people kiss them with their mouth, right? Some people kiss with their talit or with the book if they don't have a talit on. And the idea is that we are praising God because the Torah is that blueprint that I was mentioning before. And so did you notice that right at the bottom of this, there is an intimate prayer that I invite you to say, that it says, there you go, a prayer for Jewish community in distress, right? Ava Rachamim, the source of compassion. Hu Yerachem im Amusim. Recall the covenant with our ancestors and have compassion on these people, right? And that's just an intimate prayer that we do not normally say, and we do not say it publicly, even though we could, but we have, fortunately, we don't have ancestors. We say that our Jewish community is not in distress until, of course, Shiva October 7th happened, and now we realized that our Israeli community is in need of compassion, of enormous compassion. And when we say God do it, that reminds us that we should do it as well. We should do it as well. At this point, when the Torah is back at the shulchan, at the table where it's going to be read, the leader says the words Veyazor veyagen veyoshia lechol hachosim bo venomar amen. May you help, shield, and save all who trust in you, and let us say amen. Let us all declare the greatness of God and give honor to the Torah. And then we say the word Ya'amod, or if it is a woman, Ta'amod, right? Because Hebrew has gender and number like English doesn't. So therefore we change a little bit. And in here, it put in parentheses some communities, as I think ours does, include the idea that the first aliyah is given to a kohen, to a person that comes from the priestly family. And then the second one, and if a kohen is not there, a Levi would come, a Levite. And we're saying Levi bimkom Kohen, meaning if there is not, if we have a Levite instead of a Kohen, and if not, we will be calling people. Like I said at the beginning, I like to pay attention to everyone and to give an aliyah to everyone in the room on this coming Shabbat, Tazria Metzorah, and make sure that everyone has it. And when the leader finishes calling, right, the person, we say Ve'atem hadevekim b'Adonai Elohechem, and you are, in Hebrew, the word debek today is glue. Like you are connected, deeply cling, right, to God, all of us. Chaim kulchem ayom. May our lives be sustained today, right? And it's at this time that we turn to the next page, when we have the words that the person that is brought to the Torah is called Bichot HaTorah, the blessings related to the Torah, and the person that comes to the Torah says the words Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Praise the God that should be praised, that is all praiseful and praiseworthy. And before that, I want to tell you two things that are perhaps a tradition that you might like to incorporate into your lives. The first one, that according to some Jewish traditions, when a person comes to the Torah for an aliyah, say Richard comes to for an aliyah, his family from the pews will stand up during that aliyah as a sign of devotion. It's a beautiful tradition. I hope you embrace it. The other thing that you might like to do, I come from a Sephardic community, which has different traditions, but there is something, and you could see it on the very left side of the Siddur. Christina, if you can turn where it says from Sephardic practice, there you go. So the practice is to say words from the book of Ruth, and that was said by Boaz, and when he was together with a minyan of people, and he used to acknowledge them by saying, Adonai imachem, may God be with you. May God be with you. And the response of the minyan would be, Yevarechecha Adonai. May God bless you. Right? It's a beautiful tradition. And if I get to have an aliyah on Shabbat, I will do it so everybody can sing it to me. We took it together, and then we have the first of the brachot. And notice that they are transliterated. It's great if you have been already practicing with this with the MP3 that I have sent you. But if by any chance you have not yet, remember that the words are here after you say Baruch Adonai Mevorach, the congregation says Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Va'ed, and you repeat Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Va'ed, and then go on Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim Venatan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. And when the Torah when the Torah has been read, you kiss the Torah with the talit or with the marker, and you say Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torato Torat Emet B'Chaye Olam Nata B'Tochenu. You have implanted in us eternal life. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. May God be blessed for giving us the Torah. And then we have also a blessing to each one of the people that have arrived, that have to this very special moment, whether it's an individual or is a group. And those are the words that are being said. And after that, we have after the sixth aliyah, we have a special blessing. Yes, you can turn the page. Misheberach lacholim. People call it Misheberach, but Misheberach means that the one who blesses. So that Misheberach, there is Misheberach lacholim, Misheberach limdinat Israel. They're all blessings. Blessings for the country, blessings for the state of Israel, blessing for the soldiers, blessings for everyone that we want to provide with an extra sense of blessing. And that is one of the very special occasions also when we have a joyous occasion. And also when we have been saved from danger. Sometimes you say danger, what does it mean? Well, say that you've been on a plane, right? Or on a very long trip. So you recite this blessing at the bottom of the page called Birkat Hagomel. Birkat Hagomel that says, Blessed Baruch Atah Adonai, sovereign of time and space, who bestows goodness on us despite our imperfections, and who has treated me favorably. And that is said, recognizing this is that it says in here, the hakarat atov. The idea, I say it all the time, when we sometimes treat God like a mechanic. When do we approach God? Do you go to this is you're gonna know. When do you go to the mechanic, to the car mechanic? When the car works very well, you go to your mechanic and you say, I came to thank you because the car works really, really well. Is that what you do? Debbie, no, I can't say. Is that Debbie?
No, no. That doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen often. It doesn't ever happen. Does it ever happen? We go to the mechanic when something is wrong. This is what happened to me. I don't know what to do. Please help me. That's how we talk. But we want to make sure that we all remember that it's important to recognize those moments of goodness. Every one of them. Like the song says, Al advash ve'al ha'oketz, al amar ve'amatok, for the sweet and the sting, for the honey, right, and the thorn, for everything, we recognize that it's part of life. So that's what we do, and we answer, and we say, may the one who has shown such favor to you continue to bestow all that is good upon you forever, right? Then we're going to continue with the Chatzi Kaddish, which is a separation between the Maftir and the Haftarah, right? The conclusion of the reading of the Torah and the Haftarah. And what do we have? The Agva'at HaTorah, the lifting of the Torah. And for that, there are two people that are called, as you well know. One that lifts the Torah. Ashkenazi Jews have it really hard because you have to have like real skill to be able to lift it. If you would be an Iraqi Jew, the Torah would be all together. You would lift it from the bottom, no big deal. If you'll be Italian, you're also not going to have so much of a big deal because they have a little tool that we put on the two sides of Atzei HaTorah. We say the two, what is it? Help me out, Richard. The Atzei, what is it?
The handles.
The handles, thank you.
Yeah.
The handles of the Torah, and therefore they lift it from there, no big deal. Ashkenazi Jews are very strong. And so they hold the Torah and they lift it all together and they show it to the world to know. In fact, there is a tradition that claims that we have to open it, and you have to go to the gym for this. Open it so you have at least 3 columns that show. 3 columns that show. That's the deal. And of course, we all pray, because if the Torah goes to the floor, we have to fast. So we hope that this is really important. You always have 5 people around making sure that the Torah doesn't fall. So we say the words, Bezot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe, and this is the Torah that God's words by Moshe's hand, which Moshe set before the people of Israel. This is not just for the aristocracy, not only for the ones that know, for everybody to learn, for everybody to be knowledgeable. And then after that, after we lifting the Torah, we placed it down, and then we introduce the Haftarah, the portion from the prophets with a bracha, with a blessing before the Haftarah, reminding us of the prophets, and then a following bracha that reminds us of having compassion over Zion and to make us, remind us of Eliyahu Hanavi, so the Elijah the prophet. So you may say, why on earth we're actually talking about Elijah the prophet at this moment? Why Elijah? Why not some other prophet? What do you think? I spoke a lot. You can tell me. What do you think? Do you know that in the brachot Elijah is included? Why? Why would that be?
He's a messenger of the Messiah.
Right. So that's really great, Richard. Love it. Love that comment. Indeed, the tradition tells us that the Messiah will be coming by Elijah's hand. Remember, Elijah never died. But Elijah at one point was really upset with the Jewish people. He was really upset. And he went into a cave. He wanted to die. And he said, God, what happened? These people are amkshe oref, they're stiff neck. And God says, because of that, I'm going to take you to every place where they are praising my name. So when do you have Elijah? At the Berit Milah, at the circumcision. If you think that that's not praising God, I'm sure mothers know better than anyone. And there is a the Birkat Hamazon. There is Elijah also when recite the blessing after the meals, and of course we have Elijah here to remind Elijah that the Jewish people have an unending bond, an unending covenant with God since immemorial times. So we say the brachot for the Torah, for the Haftarah, and then we interject, since we have the merit of reading from the Torah and the Haftarah, we continue on and we interject a number of different prayers. Prayers like if you follow from your home, 177, Tfilah Lishlom Haaretz, a prayer for the renewal of creation, a prayer for our country, a prayer for the state of Israel, a prayer for peace. Today, we also include, unfortunately, we still included a prayer for the Chatufim, for the hostages. Of course, a Tfilah Leshalom, a prayer for peace, to make sure that we attain it. And you know, it's interesting. Some people have asked me. It says, isn't the Tfilah kind of like it's futile? Why are we praying? We pray for we say Oseh Shalom b'Bromav. We say, God, you who make peace in heaven. And in here we say, Yehi Ratzon milfanecha, may it be your will, God, that shetivatel milchamot u'shfichut damim, that would stop bloodshed. For God's sake, let's stop it. So I'm asking you, has bloodshed ended? We have been saying these prayers for 3,000 years. Have peace arrived? It's an easy question, isn't it? The answer is, I'm kind of here.
No.
Thank you, Christina. No. The answer is no. So you say, so maybe these prayers have no efficacy, right? If we have been saying it. And what the rabbis teach us is that the prayers that we say is to create a mechanism that by us saying them, we come forward and become activists. When I say this prayer, I commit myself. When I say, let justice and righteousness flow like a mighty stream, let God's peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. So when we do that, we say those words, we become committed to the idea and we go outside of the synagogue and work on it. And it's hard and it's tedious and it's complicated and it's, for some, it's even political. And we don't stop. And even though we have war, we just keep going. We just keep going. And these prayers are a reminder that the job is not done. So my prayer is, may it be the day that we don't have to recite it anymore, because peace has arrived. So I want to invite you to turn to page 181. A little later, you have a psalm that is written as Ashrei, and it's the beginning of the ending of Psalm 144 and the beginning of 145. And if you notice in the bottom, in the red, is transliterated. Why? Because many times we do it in an antiphonal fashion. So I say, Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yalelucha sela, and you answer, Ashrei am shekacha lo, Ashrei am she'Adonai Elohav, תהילה לדוד, הרוממך אלוהי המלך, ואברך שמך לעולם ועד, בכל יום אברכך, והללה שמך לעולם ועד, etc., etc. And then we recite the psalm all together. Do you see it? And in case that you need to know, there are the words. You just recite it together with me. And we go like that all the way to the end of page 182. And on page 183, immediately after that, we have the Seder Achnasat Torah. We have the order where we introduce the Torah back to the Ark, the Holy Ark, right? And what's happening is very simple, is that we just don't want to put it back. We want to stay with it for a little longer, So we open, and of course, every time the Ark is open, we rise, right? Like every time the Torah is in movement, we rise. And we say the words, Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, celebrate the name of Adonai, Ki nizgav shemo levado, for God's name alone is exalted. And then with the words, God's glory encompasses heaven and earth, Hodu al eretz v'shamayim, we recite Psalm 29, Mizmor LeDavid in this case, when we again bring the Torah to the congregation, for everybody to be able to kiss it one more time and saying farewell to the Torah. And this psalm goes all the way to page 184. And in the middle of the page, you're going to notice that there is a little red sign right there, and a red sign in the English, and a red sign in the transliteration. Sometimes we begin with this word, sometimes we begin with the next line, Etz Chaim Hi. But in any case, this is the conclusion of this service. And as such, the Ark, the Holy Ark, is closed. And we say the words of the Chatzi Kaddish that acts as a bridge to the next service called the Musaf service. And that Musaf service is the additional service that follows the additional sacrifice at the temple. And we recite an Amidah very similar to the one that we recited during Shacharit, that we discussed already, with the 7 blessings. And then we conclude the service with 2 things. First of all, we conclude with a poem on page 204. You're going to have to run, Christina. 204. It's a very ancient poem, a poem that begins with the words Ein Kelohenu, 204, Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemosheinu. Those words are going to be repeated. And it says, it's very interesting. I always try to tell people, and we're probably going to go over that too. 204, right? So it says, there is none that compares to God. And then it says, who compares to God? Well, what's the problem? You have the answer before the question, right? It should have been, who compares to God? None compares to God. It says, none compares to God, and then it says, who compares to God? Why do you think? The answer, of course, is on the fact that this is an acronym, like LA is for Los Angeles, an acrostic that begins with the letter Aleph and goes to the Mem and then the Nun. And that forms the word Amen. Let's be so. We believe that this is so. And then we have the words Baruch Atah. Blessed are you, God. So we continue with this poem, this very old poem, and then we have a final teaching that talks about Rabbi Elazar in the name of Rabbi Hanina, that basically says, may God grant strength to God's people, may God grant God's people peace. Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom, that we said, if you recall, at the beginning of the Torah service. And then we're going to say the words. We rise when we say the words Aleinu leshabeach in the next place. And if you recall, for those of you that have been together with Richard and me for Rosh Hashanah, this is part of the Seder Malchuyot, of the Seder of Kingdom during the time when we actually blow the shofar. And this prayer became so popular that people decided to incorporate it. Perhaps the rabbis decided to incorporate it every service, at every service, at the end of the service. And then, just then, we turn to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 207. One of the ways that the Kaddish, the Mourner's Kaddish, the Kaddish for those that are reminded.
Here I'm at the class, honey. Oops.
So, I'm sorry. So the Kaddish Yatom, and then then immediately after that we conclude the service. We conclude the service sometimes with this beautiful poem called Anim Zmirot. We shall chant melodies. Anim comes from the word noam, of being sweet, like we call the Melech David, King David, Neim Zmirot Israel, the singer of sweet songs. And this is Anim Zmirot. It's an acrostic. Notice that has a lot of the words that we want, of the alphabet, and then we turn to page 211. Normally, this is where we're going to conclude on 211 with the words of Adon Olam, which, if you look at your Siddur, is actually included at the very beginning of the very morning prayer. And why is so? Because this poem that is attributed to a Spanish poet, Ibn Gabirol, Shlomo Ibn Gabirol, but we are not sure that he wrote it. It's actually an interesting notice that the transliteration is there, the translation is there, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. It really doesn't. Think about it. Before creation shaped the world, eternally God reigned alone. So what is that? It's because those words imply a question, like you had on the 4 questions for the Seder. This implies a question. What's the question? What happened before the world was created? Was God there? The answer is yes. Before creation, God was reigned alone. And what would happen? You'll say, after, God forbid, the world ends. And so after everything, right? But when all is ended, God alone will reign in wondrous majesty. And the poem continues on. I would love to continue, but I can see that I have 1 minute left. And I want to tell you that at the end of the poem, the last 4 lines become intimate and become personal. God is my God, my only hope. God is my shelter, my cup of life. And beyado afkid ruchi, and in God's hand, we know God doesn't have a hand, but it's a metaphor, of course. I play my spirit in God's care. That's why the translation doesn't say the word hand, right? Beyado afkid ruchi, I spirit ve'et ishan ve'aira, at the time when my body feels like that it's time to God to go. Beim ruchi geviati, and if my spirit decays, Adonai li velo ira, I'm at peace, because God is with me and I have no fear. So that's how we end. And then we go for Kiddush. It's an extraordinary moment that happens every single Shabbat, and I want it to be yours. So I want everybody to come. I want you to invite everyone that you know. I want everybody to be not only sitting there, but also to be actively connected to the service. And I promise you this, the more connected you feel, the more beautiful it's going to be. I give you my word. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that we are going to see each other at 6:30 on Friday night. The more the merrier. I don't know, Christina and Debbie, if people had to register, I think, for the right. But I presume that if people did not register, they still can come to the service.
That's correct.
Right? So because everybody is welcome. And I want everybody to feel welcome. I want to also every one of you, to make everyone else welcome. And especially if the people that you don't know, especially them. I always remember that in my family, it was a tradition to have an extra plate at the house for Shabbat evening and Shabbat lunch, just in case that we invite somebody and they say, oh, but you didn't expect me. See, we expected you. You see, there's an extra plate. That's the plate is not extra, it's yours. I want everybody to feel welcome, that the community is vibrant and Kol Israel Arevim Ze Lazeh. We are all together in this. We care for each other. Okay? 6:30 Erev Shabbat, 10 o'clock on Shabbat morning. In my opinion, there is nothing better you can do. Nothing better you can do. So let's get together and then let's talk about what the future brings. And let's see how we get from this Shabbat, this coming Shabbat, to the Yamim Noraim, to the high holidays. What are we going to do to become even more interested in those amazing prayers that come at the beginning of the year? Any questions, anything you want to know that I haven't said, that I should have said? Christina, Debbie, Richard.
Hi, Ramon. It's Sherry. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday night, but I'm not going to be able to
I
stay for
don't need
Shabbat.
to know that.
Okay. So anyway, I have a very important question.
Yes.
I am supplying the wine, so I need to know
I hope it's
what
good
type
wine.
of wine. Well, I need to know. People like Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, Southern,
Maybe
Cabernet Sauvignon.
Everybody likes Cabernet.
Cabernet. All right, and I'll bring some. I know some people like the sweet one.
Oh, they grape juice.
Yeah, not the grape juice, but the white wine that's sweet. I forget the name of it. But I'll bring.
Moscato.
Yeah,
Either-
Moscato. I'll bring a couple of bottles of those. I'll bring a couple of botters of Cabernet. I'll bring a couple of bottles of Chardonnay.
That doesn't show up at the service.
Yeah,
That's how it is. Don't ask. Have you been? We have 3 questions about the service to us. If people answer them correctly, they can have the wine.
Oh, Cantor. There was one question you asked that I wasn't fast enough to get on to answer. You asked what the handles on the Torah were called. Eitz Chaim.
No, I know in Hebrew.
I know,
Yeah.
tree of life, tree of life.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Atzei
And then when we take the Torah back, we see Eitz Chaim.
Right. That's beautiful. Richard, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for bringing that in. Atzei Chaim, so those are the handles of the Torah, and that means the trees of life. We're going to talk about all that. I don't want to give away everything. I want people to show up. Otherwise, they're going to say, I've been at the 4 classes, I don't need to learn anymore. Right?
Yes, and please, if people know of other people that would be interested, please bring them, let us know. We do have security, so just let us know so we could get them on our list.
And if people are actually living, like I know Andrea lives in the Philadelphia area, or others live in other areas around Hazelton, it's okay for them to come. I come 191 miles. They can come for a little closer, right?
Yes.
Because the more the merrier. Let's get together and let's really find community and vibrancy together. So we love it so much that we're gonna want to do it over and over and over again. May it be the will of God that when we come, I don't know, I was telling Christina today that after we finish this Shabbaton, the day after that, actually not Sunday, but Monday, I'm leaving for the land of Israel for 8 days. So I'm really inspired. I will be inspired by your prayers.
Wait, Ramon, how long are you going to be in Israel for?
For until the 14th of May.
I'm going to Barcelona first.
You're going
leaving-
to win the Champions League, is that right?
I'm leaving up on Saturday night. That's one of the reasons why I can't be there on Shabbat. But then I'm going to Israel, and I'm arriving from Barcelona to Israel on the 8th, and I'm going to be there for a wedding until the 20th.
Good. So write me private, and I'll tell you I'm going with 30 Hazanim from Latin America. We're going to be
Wow.
all kinds of things in the Kotel, in Tel Aviv, in Kibbutzim.
Okay, I want to know because if you're going to be performing or doing so about
Yeah,
wow.
but I'm
Okay.
going to be at the Plaza of the Hatufim of the hostages. We're going to do a full concert there. So
Get
yeah,
out of here. Okay, I'm going to write you privately.
right?
Yeah.
Good. You have my number.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I love you all. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was very enlightening. I did get a lot out of this. Thank you.
You have no idea how much I had to cut. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Yes.
Okay. Take care. Bye.